All right, so get this. Today we're diving into the world of Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs. You sent over this YouTube video, and wow, it's making some pretty wild claims about his empire.
Yeah, and this is Diddy we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just some flash-in-the-pan celebrity. This is someone who's been a major force in music for, what, like 3 decades?
30 years, hit records, businesses, the whole brand is built on success. So to see someone come out and basically call him a fraud.
Well, they don't just call him a fraud, they call him a tyrant. They even go so far as to question if he's, get this, a devil in human form.
It's intense, and they even try to tie him back to Biggie and Tupac, which honestly feels like a rabbit hole we've gone down a million times.
Right, and this YouTuber does have other videos on that for anyone who wants to go down that rabbit hole. But for our deep dive today, it seems like we're focusing on more recent stuff.
More recent, and if this video is to be believed, way more, I don't know, believable.
Well, it's definitely gone from rumors about Diddy and his lavish lifestyle to some serious accusations.
Okay, so rewind for a second. For anyone who maybe hasn't been following every single Diddy headline, we need to talk about these parties.
Oh yeah, the infamous white parties.
Which have always been this, like, shadowy kind of legend, lots of rumors, celebrities, wild behavior, of course, the NDAs.
Always with the NDAs. But this YouTuber is claiming these parties were about more than just partying. They were about control.
And that's where Usher comes in, if I'm remembering this all correctly. Wasn't he signed to Diddy when he was crazy young?
Yeah. Usher was basically a teenager when he got involved with Bad Boy Records.
Yeah.
He's never gone into detail, but he has made comments about, and I quote, weird and unusual things happening at Diddy's Fly Girl camp.
Weird and unusual coming from Usher is saying something.
Exactly. And then you have Justin Bieber.
Who was, what, like 12 when he linked up with Diddy?
Maybe not 12, but young. And that's a pattern this video really tries to emphasize. Diddy surrounding himself with young talent.
Which, okay, on the surface, maybe it's just a mentor situation. But when you start to factor in these other
It
stories,
starts to feel more calculated, right? Like this guy is using his power and fame to control these young and, let's be honest, probably pretty starstruck artists.
it's giving very much the casting couch, but for music.
And then on top of all that, you have 50 Cent.
Ah, yes, because no Diddy conversation would be complete without mentioning 50. Those two have been going at it for what feels like forever.
And 50 has never been one to mince words. He's directly accused Diddy of being shady, even dangerous.
But 50 Cent loves to stir the pot, so part of me is like, is he just doing this for attention? But then when you see what comes next with Diddy,
It's like he was trying to warn us this whole time. Because that's when the rumors stop being rumors and they start to transition into something way more serious.
yeah.
First, you have his ex-girlfriend Gina, who accused him of abuse. And then you have Cassie Ventura, and, well, her story is where it feels like the whole house of cards starts to wobble.
Okay, so before we get into Cassie, because her story is wild, I think it's important to say that Diddy has denied all of this. He's saying it's all lies, that these women are trying to take him down.
Absolutely. It's important to remember that we're getting one side of a very complicated story right now. It's up to each person listening to decide for themselves, do they believe it? Do they need to see more evidence? We're just laying out the information here.
Because when it comes to Cassie, it's not just like, oh, another celebrity breakup, right? This was a relationship that, what, lasted over 10 years?
Over a decade, yeah. And you have to think about it. She was just 19 when they met. He was 37, already Diddy, this huge name, and she's...
Barely an adult, really, when you think about it.
Exactly, and when there's that kind of power imbalance, it can be really hard to find your voice, to speak out.
And she does eventually speak out, but when she does, it's not pretty. I mean, she doesn't hold back on the accusations. She's talking about abuse, control, saying she was pressured into using drugs, even forced into, like, sexual situations with other people.
Yeah, and those allegations, I mean, that's not just a messy breakup. That's serious stuff. And I think it's important to remember that, you know, it was those claims, if they're true, that made the FBI start looking into Diddy for human trafficking.
Which, again, incredibly serious.
Incredibly serious.
And what does Diddy do?
Denies it, of course.
Calls Cassie a liar, says she's trying to export him for money.
Which, honestly, is kind of a textbook response in these situations, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to attack the accuser than to actually deal with the accusations themselves.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that really gets me about all of this. The lawsuit, the one Cassie filed, it's gone.
Vanished.
Oof.
So what happened?
Well, if you believe what you see in this YouTube video, Diddy paid her off millions of dollars to disappear quietly.
And I hate to sound cynical, but that's how this stuff usually works, right? If you have enough money, enough power, you can silence people, you can make things go away.
Which then raises a whole other set of questions about if justice is even possible when one side has all the resources and the other person is.
Totally outmatched.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But, whatever happened with the lawsuit, Cassie's story, it seemed to open the floodgates because all of a sudden,
It's like a dam broke.
right, other accusers come forward and they have their own stories about Diddy.
And are these similar kinds of accusations?
That's the thing, yeah. Different women, different times, but you read their stories, you listen to their accounts, and there's this, really unsettling thread that runs through it all. The abuse, the manipulation, the threats, and always this underlying pressure to just be quiet about it.
Man, and this is where it starts to feel like less about Diddy the celebrity, Diddy the brand, and more
The
about,
man behind the curtain.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these accusations from women he was involved with, but this YouTuber, they take it a step further. They start talking about people who have died, people who were connected to Diddy.
Right, like Andre Harrell, Heavy D, Kim Porter,
And they're all gone.
gone.
Right.
And the circumstances around their deaths, let's just say they're S. They're not exactly clear-cut.
Okay, see, now that's what I mean about rabbit holes.
And then there's Albie.
Sure. Oh my gosh, and Albie Sure was married to Kim Porter, right?
He's the father of Diddy's adopted son.
Right.
And he ends up in a coma after very publicly accusing Diddy of some messed up stuff.
And then while he's in the coma, Diddy tries to get custody of his son.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot, and it gets very conspiracy theory very quickly. So are we saying Diddy is responsible for all of this?
No, and to be fair, we have to acknowledge that just because these things happen and they happened around Diddy doesn't automatically mean that he was pulling the strings.
Correlation, not causation, right?
Exactly. But you can't deny the timing of it all is.
Suspicious.
Suspicious is one word for it.
So then what happens? Because it feels like at this point, the walls are closing in on Diddy.
Yeah, the whispers are getting louder. And for the first time, it seems like he's actually starting to sweat a little bit.
And it's right around then that we hear from Lil Red. And I mean, talk about a plot twist. This is another artist who is connected to Diddy.
And she comes out with her own lawsuit.
And it's not just like a breach of contract thing. She's alleging sexual assault, forced drug use, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and not only that, she's claiming she's got the proof. The YouTuber says Lil Red was Diddy's personal photographer for a while, like years.
So she was there at the parties, in the studio, everywhere.
Everywhere, and she was recording.
Hold on, so there's potentially footage of all of this. The parties, the drugs, everything we've been talking about.
That's what Lil Red is claiming, yeah.
Again, if that stuff ever comes out, I mean, could Diddy even survive that?
It wouldn't just be career suicide, it could be criminal charges.
Yeah, this is way more than just bad press.
Way more. And, it's not just Diddy named in this lawsuit. She also calls out Meek Mill. Says he was there, saw what was going on.
Whoa, so now it's a conspiracy.
Well, I don't know about a conspiracy, but it's definitely starting to feel like Diddy wasn't acting alone.
And almost like clockwork, guess who pops up? 50 Cent.
Ding, ding, ding. He goes on this whole rant, basically saying Diddy records everything, that there are cameras everywhere.
Which, I mean, at first it sounds crazy.
Until you remember that the FBI raided Diddy's house, right?
And not just a little raid. They went in with a warrant, searched the whole place.
And don't forget about that weird detail they mentioned.
Oh yeah, the baby oil.
1,000 bottles? What was that about?
Your guess is as good as mine. See, that's the thing with all of this. There's so much we don't know, so many unanswered questions.
And Diddy's not exactly being helpful.
He's out there on Instagram posting about loyalty, enemies.
It's like he's trying to control the narrative, but it's not really working.
The damage is kind of already done, don't you think?
I think so, especially when you consider who else this YouTuber tries to connect Diddy to.
Oh, you mean like Lucian Grange, the CEO of Universal Music? The guy who got arrested in connection to Diddy's parties?
That's the one.
And then there are the Jay-Z whispers.
Always whispers with Jay-Z.
But it makes you wonder, how deep does this go?
That's the question, isn't it? Are we talking about one guy with too much power or a whole system built to protect powerful men?
And are we ever going to get real answers?
Well, that's the thing about these deep dives. Sometimes they leave you with more questions than answers. What do you think? Did we get to the bottom of this Diddy stuff? Let us know, and until next time, keep digging for the truth.
Because it's out there somewhere.